Imagine this. You're at a gathering, standing across from someone you genuinely want to connect with. Maybe it's a new colleague, a potential friend, or even someone who could change the course of your life. The setting feels right. But suddenly you freeze. Words evaporate. Your chest tightens, and silence takes over. Sound familiar? Here's the twist. Your mind isn't empty at all. In fact, it's bursting with ideas, memories, and observations. But there's an invisible filter in place, one that quietly rejects your authentic thoughts before they ever reach your lips. And it's this filter, not a lack of ideas, that leaves you stranded in silence. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, believed this wasn't just a quirk of shyness. He called it the times persona effect. Times, a kind of inner censorship that develops when we become too focused on protecting ourselves from rejection, instead of letting words flow. We perform a role. We hide behind a mask. What's fascinating is that people who seem endlessly conversational aren't necessarily brilliant talkers. They aren't always extroverts. And they're not magicians with words. They simply filter less. They let more of their inner stream slip through the cracks of self-doubt. Let's take Eliza, a 3-4-year-old architect. In therapy, she overflowed with insights and humor. But put her in a room with strangers, and she became a statue. Why? Because nearly 90% of her spontaneous thoughts were silently censored as too random, too negative, or not good enough. It wasn't her intelligence holding her back, it was her unconscious safety system. And here's the real kicker. When you're with close friends, conversation flows, not because you've suddenly become interesting, but because your filter relaxes. You allow yourself to be real. The truth is, everyone has this hidden well of material. The only difference is whether you allow it to surface or bury it beneath the fear of judgment. So, the mystery isn't, how do I come up with things to say? It's what invisible rules am I following that stop me from speaking at all? Now, let's peel back another layer of this puzzle. Jung warned us about something he called the time's shadow asterisk. Think of it as the hidden basement of your mind, filled with thoughts and feelings you've decided are too dangerous to show. But here's the paradox. Those very thoughts are often the most alive, the most human, the ones that could actually spark connection. Take Marcus, a 29-year-old financial analyst. In meetings, he seemed reserved, even dull. But inside, his mind was a fireworks show, spotting inconsistencies in strategies, picking up on body language, questioning unspoken assumptions. Yet he said none of it. Why? Because his childhood taught him that sharing bold or contrary opinions would lead to criticism. So he censored himself before anyone else could. This is what I call time's shadow censorship asterisk. It operates on 3 levels, often without you noticing. E. Asterisk, asterisk. Surface censorship, asterisk, asterisk, rejecting thoughts because they seem inappropriate in the moment. R. Asterisk, asterisk. Identity censorship, asterisk, asterisk. Suppressing anything that doesn't match the image you want to project, like being professional, agreeable, or fun. San. Asterisk, asterisk. Existential censorship, asterisk, asterisk. Silencing deeper reflections because they might expose your fears. doubts, or desires. And here's where it gets haunting. Every time you discard a thought like asterisk, they wouldn't care about this. Asterisk. You strengthen the chains of your shadow. The conversation becomes a performance, and you disconnect from the authentic material bubbling beneath. But Jung saw a way through. He believed that true growth wasn't about pretending to be a figure of light. It was about making the darkness conscious. In conversation, this means gently noticing the ideas you silence. It means asking, asterisk, why did I just push that thought away? What am I afraid? It will reveal asterisk. Imagine if Marcus had trusted just one of those inner sparks. Instead of nodding politely, he might have said, I noticed. We're overlooking a risk in this plan. Has anyone thought about that angle? Suddenly, he's no longer invisible. He's real. Engaged. Memorable. The lesson. Great conversationalists aren't inventing brilliant material, they're daring to voice the thoughts the rest of us bury. The shadow is always speaking. The question is, will you let it? If you've ever wondered. Asterisk. Why do I silence myself? Times, the roots stretch far back to childhood. Jung believed our social masks, what he called the times persona asterisk, begin as survival strategies. Think about it as children. We're constantly testing the waters. Share a thought too bold, and maybe a parent criticizes you. Express too much emotion, and maybe you're told to calm down. Slowly, we learn that safety means suppression by the time we're adults. The mask is so ingrained that we forget we're even wearing it. The filtering system operates like a well-trained guard, intercepting authentic thoughts before they reach the surface. Jung described this as times psychological splitting, times dividing the parts of ourselves that feel acceptable from those that don't. Consider Amelia, a 6-year-old teacher. She was bright, thoughtful, endlessly curious. Yet in staff meetings, she defaulted to safe, forgettable comments. When she finally explored why, she realized her earliest memories were of being scolded for talking too much. Her psyche learned to protect her by cutting off expression before it got her in trouble. Decades later, that protection was still running the show. The filter usually works in 3 interconnected ways. Asterisk, asterisk. Projection anxiety. Asterisk, asterisk. You expect others to judge you the way authority figures once did. Asterisk, asterisk. Shadow displacement. Asterisk, asterisk. Instead of voicing authentic thoughts, you scramble for safe alternative small talk. Empty pleasantries. Recycled phrases. Asterisk, asterisk. Persona rigidity. Asterisk, asterisk. The mask becomes so tight you forget what your real voice even sounds like. This is why most social skills advice feels flat. Lists of conversation starters. Tricks for small talk. Even polished body language. They're surface tools. They don't touch the root. You can't fix silence by stacking clever tricks on top of fear. Jung's radical insight was this. Your awkwardness isn't proof you're broken. It's a signal of authenticity trying to break through. That blank moment in conversation, it's not emptiness. It's the tension between your real self and your rehearsed self. And learning to notice that tension is the first step to freedom. So here's a thought experiment next time you fall quiet. Instead of panicking, ask yourself times, what am I really thinking right now that I'm not allowing myself to say times? You might be surprised at how much is waiting in the wings. Here's the part Jung found most astonishing. Every single one of us has a continuous inner stream of associations, a kind of psychological river that never stops flowing. Thoughts, memories, random observations, all of them bubbling up moment by moment. Especially in social situations. Think of it like standing near a waterfall. The water doesn't stop. It just cascades endlessly. The problem isn't that you lack water. The problem is that you've built a dam. Let's picture Daniel, a 1-year-old photographer, at home. He'd ramble effortlessly to his roommate about art, films, or even the weather. But when introduced to new clients, silence. On the inside, though, he noticed details everywhere. The way light streamed across the table, the tension in someone's smile, a connection to a book he'd just read. His mind was alive, but his lips stayed sealed. This is where Jung's insight shines. Those who never run out of things to say aren't smarter. They've simply learned to trust this unconscious stream. They dip their cup into the river and share what's already there. The challenge, of course, is that the stream carries times everything asterisk. Light-hearted remarks, deep reflections, even darker or vulnerable truths. Our inner censor immediately starts sorting times. Too heavy, too random, too personal, too risky, asterisk. And just like that, the river is silenced. But what happens when you let a little more through magic? Instead of offering polite, surface-level replies, your words begin to carry texture. A client mentions they're exhausted, and instead of saying, yeah, me too, Daniel could reply, funny. I was just noticing how even light seems heavier when we're worn out. That small glimpse of his inner world creates a bridge. Suddenly, the conversation feels alive. Jung often said, who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. This applies perfectly here. To awaken in conversation means to notice the stream already flowing within you and to trust that at least some of it deserves to surface. So, the real skill isn't generating more material. It's loosening the dam. It's learning to risk a little authenticity in the moment, even if it feels uncertain. Because uncertainty, more often than not, is where real connection begins. Jung noticed something curious. People tend to fall into 3 broad patterns when it comes to speaking from that inner stream. And knowing which type you lean toward can be like holding a mirror up to your conversational life. Asterisk, asterisk. Type 1, the suppressor. Asterisk, asterisk. This is the person who filters everything. Their responses are safe, polite, predictably. They avoid risk at all costs. But the price is distance. The conversation stays on the surface, and both people leave feeling unseen. Asterisk, asterisk. Type 2, the reactor. Asterisk, asterisk. This person does the opposite. They blurt out whatever arises. Unprocessed. Their words are raw, authentic, but often overwhelming. Think of a friend who overshares within minutes of meeting someone new. Authenticity without awareness can flood the room. Asterisk, asterisk. Type 3, the integrator. Asterisk, asterisk. This is the sweet spot. The integrator allows authentic thoughts to surface, but filters them through self-awareness rather than fear. Instead of saying, I hate my job. 2. They might say, I know that feeling of frustration. I've struggled with it myself. The difference, the words are still real, but they're expressed in a way that invites connection rather than chaos. Let's revisit Eliza, the architect. At first, she lived in Type 1 territory. Everything she said at networking events was safe. Yes, that's interesting. Or, oh, tell me more about your project. Nothing about her real personality came through. When she tried to break free, she swung into Type 2 bluntly, sharing how much she disliked corporate architecture. True, but too sharp, too fast. Through practice, she began leaning into Type 3. When someone mentioned feeling uninspired at work, she replied, I can relate. I've found myself craving projects that actually feel human, not just functional. Do you ever feel that way? Suddenly, the conversation deepened. Instead of being a transaction, it became an exchange. Jung believed that moving toward integration was a kind of training ground for individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you really are. And conversation, surprisingly, is one of the best places to practice. Every interaction is a chance to notice times. Am I suppressing, reacting, or integrating asterisk? And here's the most freeing part. Integration doesn't mean being profound all the time. It just means being honest in a way that respects both you and the other person. Sometimes that honesty is lighthearted. Sometimes it's vulnerable. But it's always real. So ask yourself, when you speak, which face are you wearing? And what would it take to move one step closer to the integrator's balance? Now, before we rush into turning Jung's insights into social hacks, there's a crucial warning. Knowledge of human psychology carries power, and like all power, it has a shadow. Jung himself cautioned that the goal isn't to become more persuasive, more impressive, or more skilled at winning people over. The real goal is connection. To use authenticity as a weapon is to corrupt it. Think of 3 shadow patterns that often sneak in. Asterisk, asterisk. The pseudo-authentic performer. Asterisk, asterisk. This is the person who sprinkles just enough vulnerability to appear real. But it's all calculated. They're performing sincerity, not living it. Asterisk, asterisk. The button pusher. Asterisk, asterisk. They learn what triggers people and exploit it, maybe to gain admiration, compliance, or just to feel powerful. Asterisk, asterisk. The collector. Asterisk, asterisk. Conversations become practice fields for techniques, rather than moments of genuine encounter. Every interaction is a test, not a connection. It's tempting, isn't it? Once you understand these psychological dynamics, you realize how easy it would be to shape how others see you. But here's the test Jung offered. If your satisfaction comes from controlling the room, you've missed the point. If your satisfaction comes from authentic connection, even when it doesn't go perfectly, you're on the right path. Take Marcus again, the analyst. Once he realized how much he'd been censoring, he felt an urge to overcorrect, almost to show off his new authenticity. But instead of connection, people pulled away. Why? Because they sensed he was sharing, not to connect, but to prove something. Authenticity can't be staged. It has to emerge from self-awareness. not strategy. That's why Jung insisted that every psychological technique must first be applied inward, not outward. Before you try to understand others, use the insight to understand your own patterns. Before you analyze someone else's defenses, notice your own. Because here's the truth, everyone you meet is carrying invisible wounds. The confident speaker may be hiding fear. The awkward one may be carrying a rich inner world. Your role isn't to expose or outmaneuver them. It's to show up as real as you can, and let the rest follow. In this way, authenticity becomes less about mastering conversation and more about embodying a way of being. It shifts from times to times who am I showing up as asterisk, and that subtle shift, believe it or not, changes everything. Here's where things get truly fascinating. Jung noticed that when one person shows up authentically, it creates a ripple effect. Authenticity doesn't just stay inside you. It reflects outward, like a mirror, and invites others to do the same. Picture this. Lydia, a researcher, went to a conference, bracing herself for awkward small talk. Instead of defaulting to her polished resume spiel, she simply said, "Honestly, I'm here because I'm trying to understand why so many of us feel disconnected, even in crowds like this." That small, unpolished truth shifted the atmosphere. Suddenly, people leaned in. They began sharing their own doubts, their struggles with loneliness, their hopes. One by one, authentic responses started surfacing. This is what I call the Times authenticity mirror effect asterisk. It operates on several levels. Asterisk, asterisk. Personal mirror, asterisk, asterisk. When you reveal a real thought, others feel permission to do the same. Asterisk, asterisk. Emotional mirror, asterisk, asterisk. When you admit to genuine feelings, people relax into their own. Asterisk, asterisk. Psychological mirror, asterisk, asterisk. When you acknowledge your struggles, others stop pretending. 2. Asterisk, asterisk. Existential mirror, asterisk, asterisk. When you voice deeper questions, you awaken reflection in those around you. Think about it. How many conversations have left you drained because they were performances? And how many times have you walked away energized after a talk that felt raw, unfiltered, alive? That's the mirror at work, Jung once wrote. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And yet, when you take even a small step toward that acceptance, you create a pocket of safety for others to try it too. People aren't drawn to perfection, they're drawn to presence. This explains why some individuals feel magnetic. Even if they aren't the most eloquent, they radiate a kind of openness, a willingness to be seen. And that, in turn, allows others to step out from behind their own masks. So the next time you're in a conversation, instead of strategizing what to say next, ask Times, what's the most real thing I could say right now, Times? That one shift can transform a forgettable exchange into a moment that lingers, because authenticity, when offered freely, doesn't just change you, it changes the room. Here's the hard truth. Jung never sugarcoated. Authenticity has a price. When you begin to speak more honestly, not everyone will applaud. Some people will find it uncomfortable. Others may even pull away. Why? Because authenticity disrupts the unspoken contracts of social performance. Many relationships, whether at work, in families, or even among friends, are built on mutual masks. When you take yours off, it subtly pressures others to question theirs. And not everyone is ready for that. Take Amelia, the teacher we met earlier. As she practiced expressing herself more authentically, she noticed something unsettling. Some colleagues leaned in, appreciating her fresh perspective, but a few began to distance themselves, calling her too intense or too blunt. At first, she panicked. Was she doing it wrong? But over time, she realized this was part of the journey. Some connections deepen with authenticity, others fade. Both outcomes are natural. Jung described this as moving toward time's psychological sovereignty, asterisk. It's the moment you realize your worth isn't tethered to universal approval. You're no longer performing to be liked, you're speaking because it's true. And paradoxically, that independence makes your presence stronger. Think of it like a fire. A small flame flickers in the wind, vulnerable to every breeze. But as the fire grows, it generates its own heat, its own stability. Likewise, the more you root yourself in authenticity, the less fragile you become in the face of disapproval. This doesn't mean blurting everything without care. It means being willing to risk rejection in order to live aligned with who you are. To say, in affect times, I'd rather be real and misunderstood than polished and unseen. And here's the unexpected beauty. While some people may withdraw, the ones who remain are drawn closer than ever. Because they're not connecting with a mask, they're connecting with you. So the question becomes, are you willing to let go of being universally liked in exchange for being genuinely known? That's the threshold Jung believed every person must cross if they want conversation and life itself to feel truly alive. Jung believed that authenticity isn't a switch you flip, it's a journey. And like all journeys, it has stages. Think of it less like a straight path and more like climbing a mountain, with each stage giving you a wider view of who you are. Asterisk, asterisk. Stage 1, recognition. Asterisk, asterisk. The first step is simply noticing how much you filter. You start catching yourself in the act, wanting to say something, then swallowing it. This stage can feel uncomfortable, even disorienting, because you see how often you've hidden. Asterisk, asterisk. Stage 2, experimentation. Asterisk, asterisk. Next comes trial and error. You test sharing more authentic thoughts in low-stakes situations, maybe with a friend, maybe in casual conversations. Sometimes it lands beautifully, sometimes awkwardly. Both are part of the process. Asterisk, asterisk. Stage 3, integration. Over time, your authentic voice feels less like an act and more like a habit. You stop switching personalities depending on the room you're in. You become consistent. One self. Everywhere. Stage 4, refinement. Asterisk, asterisk. Now you learn the art of expression. You discover how to voice truths in ways that connect rather than divide. It's not about watering down honesty, but about balancing clarity with compassion. Asterisk, asterisk. Stage 5, transcendence. Asterisk, asterisk. Here's where the magic happens. Conversation no longer feels like a performance or even a task. Words flow as naturally as breathing. You're not thinking about what to say. You're simply present. And the right words emerge from that presence. But let's be real, each stage brings discomfort. You're rewiring patterns built over decades. The nervousness you feel when you speak authentically, that's not failure, it's growth. It's your psyche stretching into new territory. Think of Sarah, the software engineer from earlier. When she began speaking more honestly at work events, she felt shaky, even embarrassed. But over time, her colleagues began to see her as thoughtful, relatable, and surprisingly engaging. What once felt terrifying became second nature. Jung called this lifelong process times individuation, times becoming who you truly are, not who you think you're supposed to be. Conversation, in this sense, becomes both the practice ground and the reward. Each authentic word is a step toward wholeness. So ask yourself, which stage do you recognize in your own life right now? And what small step could you take today to move closer to transcendence? Jung believed that authenticity isn't just personal, it's contagious. Every time you choose to show up more fully, you create a ripple effect in the people around you. One honest word can shift the entire tone of a room. Think of it this way. Culture is built on conversations, and most conversations are performances safe, agreeable, surface level. But when someone breaks the script with a genuine response, it opens a crack in the facade. Through that crack, others catch a glimpse of what's possible. Take Daniel, our photographer. At first, his work, dinners were stiff exchanges about projects and deadlines. But once he started voicing his authentic observations, like how the light in a restaurant reminded him of his grandmother's kitchen, others began sharing their own stories. A simple remark about lighting turned into a cascade of personal memories. What was once a transactional dinner became a moment of human connection. Jung described this ripple as part of time's collective consciousness, evolution, asterisk. In other words, the way we talk to each other shapes the way we live together. Authentic individuals act as pioneers, gently nudging the collective toward deeper, truer exchanges. Of course, this isn't always easy. Our culture often rewards cleverness over honesty, performance over presence. Being authentic can feel like swimming against the current. But here's the secret: currents change when enough people start swimming differently. Every time you risk showing up without the mask, you make it a little easier for the next person. Your courage becomes a kind of permission slip for others. And slowly, conversation by conversation, the fabric of human connection strengthens. This is why Jung insisted that authenticity isn't just self-help, it's a form of service. When you dare to be real, you aren't just healing yourself, you're helping others remember who they are. So the question is, what would shift in your world if you treated every conversation, no matter how small, as an opportunity to practice this kind of ripple effect? We've traveled far from the silence of suppressed thoughts to the flowing river of authentic speech, from the shadows of self-censorship to the bright mirror of connection. And now, it comes down to a choice. Jung's central insight was never about running out of things to say. That was only the surface problem. The deeper truth is, this people who seem endlessly conversational aren't superior talkers. They've simply reclaimed access to their own authentic psychological material. They trust the stream within and let it speak. Think of Eliza, Amelia, Marcus, Daniel, Sarah, Lydia, all these stories we've explored. Each began with silence, masks, or fear. Each discovered that conversation became alive only when they risked being real. And isn't that the pattern for all of us? That what we're really starving for isn't more words, but more truth in the words we already have. The price of authenticity is courage. You will sometimes be misunderstood. You will sometimes face awkward pauses, or even rejection. But the reward is immeasurable conversations that energize instead of drain you. Relationships that deepen rather than stall. A sense of wholeness that comes from finally aligning what you think, what you feel, and what you say. And here's the paradox Jung left us with. When you stop performing for approval, you actually become more magnetic. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. And people are starving for real. So the next time silence creeps in and you feel your chest tighten, pause. Notice the thought you're about to bury and ask yourself times, what would happen if I gave this thought a voice? Times, that one act could change the conversation and maybe, in some small way, change the world. You've now seen how silence isn't emptiness, but potential. How every conversation is a chance to practice conscious authenticity. And how, step by step, word by word, you can transform the way you connect with others and with yourself. The question now isn't whether you're capable of this transformation. You are. The question is, are you willing to risk being truly seen? If this exploration spoke to you, consider joining us here at *** softly spoken lore, *** for more journeys into the hidden dimensions of the human psyche. Because the conversation doesn't end here, it's only beginning.